What's up, folks, and welcome back. Here we are. What you about to say?
Man, been starring behind the scenes so long, he done forgot how to intro a show. I swear. Hey, we've been doing this Najir Bruckenheimer thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back here for season 2 of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. The usuals here, Najir and Lucas doing what we do best, bringing you that recap show at the conclusion of each episode, each week, this season, and all things power. It's been a long time, and like Lucas said, it's been a while since I've been on this side of things in terms of doing recaps with my guy Lou, who goes by Lucas because we already have a Lou for the show, so I don't want to confuse anything here. So you're going to be Lucas, and we have Lulu. But folks, if you've never checked out our recaps, we are here to break things down, give you some laughs, give you some context, and hopefully you join us each and every week. And if you really like us, definitely subscribe. Feel free to donate, whether in the super chat or in the thanks, and we'll be here each week trying to provide you some entertainment, yet a thorough recap and review of each and every episode. This episode, as the premiere episode of season 2 of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, is titled The More Things Change. Also need to point out that this is directed by Mario Van Peebles. So,
man.
Yeah, so if you know...
I said a heavy hitter off the break.
Yeah, I was gonna say you know the name, then you know, and then you know the style and aesthetic. But I also think that, like, you know, this was a very sort of a slow start into the things of this episode, but I think we left off on the end of this episode really with a lot of intrigue about things are going to go. There was definitely some things I really want to talk about, but as we do in our recaps, we like to start at the top of the episode and work our way through it. I think we have to start now with the top of the episode and the biggest thing of the top of the episode, and that is Detective Howard, which shout out to my man Omar Epps, who we got to chat with a couple of weeks ago at San Diego Comic-Con. Good guy. Check out his new book, which I believe is available in October. If you're getting the hard copy, and I think you can get the digital copy on Amazon as of now, possibly. We have our copies. He gave us some early copies, so you know, can't tell you exactly when, but you can check out that interview along with our other Power interviews that's available on the channel now. But yeah, Detective Howard. Well, we've seen what happened with him at the end of season 1. Now we see he's alive. It's only been 3 months, folks. Let's be very clear. It's only been 3 months, and someone who was shot, which could easily been fatal, is alive. And not only is he alive, you know, he's in remission of cancer, which is also something I was willing to take about. So you know, he comes back now as the prodigal son, a miracle if you may have. He has lost memory, but he is in remission, as I said. He did survive that gunshot wound, and well, now everything is a little bit of a blur to him as he tries to navigate, you know, what led him to being shot, but now where does life go forward? So ultimately, what did you think about this arc? I mean, we knew he was coming back this season, whether because of our conversations with him, whether because of the promotion material, whether because of the trailer. We knew he was coming back, but I think me and you kind of talked about this extensively last season in terms of like, listen, he should not, but this is too big of a name to just, you know,
end in one season.
Exactly.
Like, come on, man. You're not killing Omar Epps off in the first season. But I mean, first, I'm gonna say memory loss is bullshit because he does not have memory loss. I'm going to say he's just not telling them who shot him because that's what his partner was attempting to find out. Because she said, well, he has no memory of who shot him. Of course he doesn't. He's definitely not going to tell you his son shot him. That's not going to happen. So BS on memory loss, but that's a good setup to where his allegiance lies and what his main purpose is still to get to know and get closer to his son. Secondly, as someone who's went through cancer, for this man to go get shot in the chest and then going through remission in 3 months is amazing. But I do like the way they tied it together. So it's not one of them things where people can claim, oh, it's just power and they're just going to come up with anything. They literally said he was shot, and because he was shot, they ended up finding a cop on the force that was the exact bone marrow match that he needed, and that's what he was looking for Kanan to do in the first place. So again, I love the way they did it because it still comes across as realistic that he would find a bone marrow match, especially once the whole force finds out, by the way, he's shot and he has cancer. One thing we know about police, they close ranks when one of theirs is hurt. So that was great to see. And then I think everything with him in this episode, from him still attempting to get to know Kanan, him still piecing together the things that he kind of already knows about, and the players that he knows about, while still keeping his partner at bay. It's a good setup for the season moving forward, because it's still the same Detective Howard with secrets and things that he's trying to keep from his partner at all costs.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I will talk more about the memory loss thing a little bit later on in this episode, especially at the conclusion of this episode. But let's go back to or let's now go forward to where Kanan whereabouts is. Now,
hey, what happened to Baltimore?
That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know, because it was instructed. Now, here's the thing, and I want to kind of fantasy book a little bit here. Here's the thing. He was instructed, Cynthia was instructed to take Kanan to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. We already know he's been on Rock's bad side. In the moment that she called upon him, which not only because of his care for Kanan, which easily is the reason why he steps up, but it also gets him back on the good graces of Rock. Now, there was little bits and tidbits about the misdirection to go to Virginia Beach, because she said, I met you in Virginia Beach. The big question here is, why not Baltimore? Why was Baltimore mentioned but not actually why was that not ultimately the destination? And I don't know if this is going to be something that's just going to be like a whoops, or is this going to be like they're going to explain it as to like, we went to Baltimore, or we thought about Baltimore, and then we decided otherwise. The other thing is, let's just talk logistics here, because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to say, well, maybe they went to Baltimore first and then went to Virginia Beach. Possibly. It'll be a dumbass drive.
Oh, man.
But that's like not technically the route you want to go here. You know what I mean?
No, you don't want to go to Baltimore, then Virginia Beach. Not at all.
That's an 8-hour trip for no reason. Like literally for no reason.
or the aunt. Now that's
Aunt Deb.
Aunt Deb, that's in the, which is considered one of the better parts of Virginia Beach for people who've never been to Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is a city. Okay, first things first. Yeah. Virginia Beach is a city. I know it's a beach, but it's also a city.
Yeah.
And Sandy Bridge is a beach within Virginia Beach, but it's a more isolated beach within Virginia Beach. I think right now it's kind of more like the single family hush posh type area of Virginia Beach. It's Sandy Bridge Beach. So again, it fits that they would go there if they have family there.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find out later in the season that there was a situation where they attempted to go to Baltimore and something went wrong, or somebody discovered the move, and then that's what made them go to Sandy Bridge Beach instead.
Yeah. So
which could be interesting, because if we think about it, would that mean their family stretches that far? Are we looking at a family that stretches from New York to Baltimore to Virginia Beach, which, along with it just being very interesting to stretch that distance, those are all hotspots for drug traffic.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So that would be a very interesting thing. Or maybe this is just the setup that they have going on for their business. That would also be an amazing thing to see happen.
Yeah. I'm just taking a quick look at my Google traffic here, because it's right. So exactly my thoughts about logistics. So anybody that knows anything about these coasts, you're coming from anywhere in New York, you can just ride the coast all the way down, and I'll get you right to Virginia Beach. Or you can go through Philly, and then you'll still go through Delaware and go through it. That's your second route. And then there is the longest route of them all that will take you through Baltimore all the way down through to Richmond, all the way down to Norfolk, all the way down to Virginia Beach, which
at that point, Symphony just didn't know what to do. He didn't know where he was going. Because no one who knows what they're doing is ever going to take that trip.
That at all.
Are you kidding me?
And honestly, like the Virginia Beach signs are in Delaware, so like you would easily say, well, that's the way I need to go. So you had to completely miss that to say like, I guess I'll just see what's up in Baltimore.
Hey man, but you know what? This is the 90s. You know, niggas had to pull out those folding maps.
Yeah,
try to track, and maybe he tracked the wrong way, and he thought Baltimore, and then he moved his ass all the way back around and went to Virginia Beach.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it could have been a lot of things here. He could have wanted to stall for more time so he can have more time to keep Kanan safe, because that's sort of the conflict between the two of them is who knows what's best for Kanan. You know, Rock, without a doubt, feels like she knows him. She knows what's best for him. And I think there's always an aspect of somebody looking from the outside in that says like, hey, well, I see these type of things happening. I feel like these may be the suggested measures of safety or protocol, whatever it may be. And that's where their conflict kind of is. It's just kind of like anytime he questions Rock's authority and decision making, she's left with saying, listen, you can leave my life. I know what's best for my son. And sometimes that could be a little bit toxic, but I think that they may turn the page on that based on some things that's happened in this episode. But nonetheless, I think, you know, for the sake of just power storytelling, I like your idea. There must be family ties in Baltimore, and then from Baltimore they was directed to go to Virginia Beach. And it'll be interesting to see if Rock somehow, some ways has that much tie into these other cities, because I think for us, we're still very much intrigued about Baltimore, not because Baltimore's up the road, but because we know Baltimore is eventually going to tie into the whereabouts of Jukebox and then ultimately into DC. Or does she go the other route? Does she go to Virginia Beach?
To DC?
Yeah, which would be something.
That would hey, plenty of people did it.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a rap group that did it. We got a bunch of rappers from Virginia Beach who made that same trick down to DC. So that could also make sense. Also, even before we skip this, I want to really focus on the conversation between Aunt Deb and Rock, because that also plays in the dynamics of Rock as a mom, of her feeling Kanan is safest with her. And Aunt Deb's like, I can enroll him in school down here. I can do everything. Like, maybe this is for the best for him to get away from that lifestyle, is to be here. So it kind of comes across that Virginia Beach is their safe haven. So that's why I think you may be right. Maybe that is the trek that Jukebox ends up taking. Because if that is the safe haven, you could just imagine Jukebox leaving and going down there.
Yeah.
Like, again, I did like when Don Deb said, you know, remember, you can always come here and tell Jukebox the same. She can always come here.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Lulu, because we can only have one Lou on the show, so we're talking about Uncle.
He told me don't catch COVID, so he could be Lulu.
Mr. Lulu Thomas, who decides to first of all, Lou is having a very typical conversation at this point with Jessica, who happens to be Famous' sister, who is Famous' manager, who is trying to figure out when's Famous going to get his new hit. Listen, I want it too, so by all means, they need to work this out, because right now, like they said, that mixtape has dust on it. I have ran the streets need a body to the ground, and at this point I'm getting bored of it, so I'm gonna have to need Famous to get back in the booth.
They said the streets didn't catch on. The streets need a body.
Yeah.
Hey, don't tell me they hit him with the Jay-Z. We don't believe you. You need more people. Like, we know you don't. We know you ain't giving the streets a body. So who's giving the streets a body? And they just threw Famous little track. Damn, that's so messed up.
Interesting enough, the way they play this is that because of his lyrics, that's how the streets responded to it, where you're just like, oh, okay, well, you know, the whole idea of like, what would he say, like, you don't need to be famous or something like that, something he said, I can't remember for exactly, but in the way of him stealing a story to put in his lyrics, and then the lyrics he wrapped around those ended up actually backfiring, because it did make him more popular, maybe the people respected it as a song, but they didn't expect you to still be a rapper. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you can't be talking about all these things happening in the streets, and then we're supposed to look at you as a source of constant music. You know?
And this is back in the 90s where you actually had to live your rhymes because people believed everything you said.
Yeah.
It ain't like nowadays when people talk like that and you be like, oh yeah, this dude ain't never held a gun before. Back then, like, it was a thought process that if you made a song like Streets Need a Body, that you are out here giving the streets bodies.
Yeah.
And then you see Famous and they probably like, oh nah. he ain't giving the streets no bodies.
Oh boy. So Famous out here done got a little fame, and now he's just out here smoking, and that's it for him for right now. No motivation and can't get another hit. Meanwhile, Lou, frustrated with Jessica, as per usual, decides to go down the street and he hears his beat. Me personally, at first I said that don't sound like Jukebox, and if that is Jukebox, I would love an extra, put out the extended version of the song, because then again I'll start spinning it again for my own personal use. But it's not. He ends up coming into a new artist, Zisa, who covered it. Now, let me not show my age here, but were people covering people's songs back in the day like that?
If they got their hands on the beat, yes. So one, if she got her hands on a beat mix, that was probably a tape they got put out there with a bunch of beats on it, and it was just to help put publicity for the label. Like, again, that's why Famous Sister at one point in time says you didn't even put a street team out. Like, street teams don't exist anymore, but back then they did, and back then you would possibly put it out as a way to hype up your studio, hype up your label. Hey, we got all these beats. Like, these are some hot jumps that's gonna be coming, or mix some shit, send it back to us, and let us hear it.
Yeah,
that's how you used to be able to sign artists that way, by them dropping it. I think Eminem did that a couple times, and that's how he got looked at by people like Fat Joe, even though they passed on them and stuff of that nature. So yeah, it was definitely a thing they did back in the day. So it was hot just to hear her voice on there, because for a minute I had to listen. I'm like, wait a minute, is this Jukebox? I'm like, no, that's not the same tone. It's not Jukebox. So it's this little Lisa Stansfield of this jump giving it up.
So yeah, we'll talk more about her in a little bit, but he ends up cutting her off and saying, listen, I'm Lou Thomas of Bulletproof Records. Gives her the car. She's completely ready to mace him, and says, yeah, give me a call. He's interested in signing her. So we'll see how that plays out after the conclusion of everything in this episode. But anyway, Rock is on the way back to New York. Question for you, sir. Is she completely reckless bringing him back in 3 months?
Yes. I would have assumed 6 at the least amount of time before you bring him back for what he did. Like, can the streets calm down in 3 months? I mean, now it can, because so much stuff is happening. Kids, social media, things of this nature. Everything moves faster. Back in the 90s, you could have done something 3 months ago and you still be the talk of everything humanly possible. So it's kind of weird that you would bring him back. But also, you got to keep in mind, she's bringing him back because what happened with Detective Howard has been put off on somebody else.
Yeah.
Even though, granted, now they're still investigating it. So you kind of wonder, like, why not take the time, let him? But this is Rock being an overprotective mom. Like, she wants her baby. That's the key part here. I want my baby back, and I'm not leaving him down there any longer. So she took 3 months to bring him back to New York to show off her amazing operation.
Indeed. And I also think you bring up a good point. It's definitely a flex. It's definitely like a, hey, son, look what I've been working on. You're proud of me. And like, let's just call it what it is. Rock is a strongly written character. But in terms of understanding characters, you look at pros, you look at cons, you look at strengths, you look at weaknesses. And I want to make sure I premise this very correctly. When I say weakness in this context, I do not mean in terms of a flaw, but the things that may technically make her vulnerable, and it's clearly Kanan. Everything else, she's thorough, proficient. But when it comes to her son, that's when things could potentially get a little bit like convoluted for her, or just, it's whatever the situation may be. But it could, in doubt, be something that can potentially get her off of her game. But on the other end, yes, I for whatever reason, it's like she's working to prove that she's a good mother when she never really had to do that. But because of the circumstances of her putting her son in a situation to have to pull the trigger, as he says, in the result of this, this is giving him those dreams and he really can't focus. He had to leave town, all these sorts of different things that she tried to put on him. He thought he wanted to be in the game. She completely endorsed it, realizing it wasn't the right call. I think now she's really trying to do her best to kind of rectify the situation to get back on his good side. So I think she's like, hey, well, look what I did. I built us a kingdom and everybody respects me. I got the streets on lock. As she says, I'm the only game in town right now. And you're safe, and that's my job as a mother, for you to be safe. It's not your job to protect me, but it's my job to protect you. And I think this is her way of giving receipts and saying, like, here's what I've done. So with that being said, what is your assessment of her as a mother? Because we have this conversation about good mothers in power, and we're not going to rank them today, but it is a constant trend among that mother-son relationship in power, from Tommy to Tariq, to now Kanan. We're getting these characters who have mothers who are very, very present, for whatever present means for them. But yet, very critical in terms of how these characters develop and the progression of their stories. And, even when you look at somebody like Tommy, who can completely be self-sufficient, when his mom is involved, that is a detour by all means. So, with Kanan now here, what's sort of your assessment of their relationship and Rock as a mother?
I mean, we may need to look at this as being an ultimate play by Rock. Remember, she never wanted Kanan in the business at all. That was not her goal. That was not her dream. He kept on forcing her hand, and she let him in. And then she let him see the darkest sides humanly possible what this game could be. And then all of a sudden, now we're at a point where he's thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. From a parent perspective, I would say that's the best form of parenting you can do. Is, you know what, you get to the age that you just feel that you need this, I'm gonna let you see it. I'm gonna let you see it. I'm gonna let you go through it. And when you go through it and then you realize this ain't for me, my job is done, because I never wanted it to be for you in the first place. So I mean, from a mother's perspective, you understand the moves that she's making here. I think I even fully understood why she put him in the positions that she did last season. Because once he started acting like a man, she had to treat him like one. And that's what happens when you are a single mother raising a boy. Once he started acting like a man, treat him like a man and see where you're going to go to, or if you're going to run right back to mom because you realize this ain't for me. So as a mother, I absolutely love what she did there. And I don't know if that's going to come to fruition of her seeing it that way, because they haven't fully shown us yet in the first episode. But I think it should come to the realization from Rock that this is exactly what I wanted. I showed you the game. I never wanted you to be a part of this. I never wanted you to believe, just because you're my son and who you believe your dad is to be, that you had to be in this game. And now that you realize this is not necessarily for you, maybe you'll go back on the path that she always wanted him in, which was the private schools, or doing well. That's all she ever wanted for Kanan. She never wanted any parts of him being in the game. So hopefully that's what we see moving forward, is this was part of her master plan. And one thing we can say for sure, when Rock has a plan, the shit is extremely detailed and down to the T, she runs it perfectly. As she's done with the towers and everything else here. So maybe Kanan was part of her plan, this is the way I can get him out of wanting to live this life.
Absolutely. I want to say a couple other things, and folks, definitely jump in the comments and let us know your thoughts about the evaluation of Rock. How would you categorize her in terms of being a good mother or not? And again, this is the theme that's ran throughout all the power shows in terms of mothers and their relationship with their sons, and if they are truly being a good mother, or are they actually being more detrimental to their maturity than they actually think they are. And also, I can't stress enough that Patina Miller, who I don't know how she gets snubs for her performance on this show when it comes down to award season. I know Courtney has worked with a lot of characters, but the one she happens to be the most passionate about happens to be Patina Miller performance as Rock, and I think this is still another episode of her still with a very strong performance that you just see and believe her character at any given time. Which I bring this up is because we believe, shall I say, I believe a lot of what she's saying, and then after I sit back and kind of evaluate the episode, I'll say, wait a minute now, do I believe her? And I think that's like a very convincing thing about her, because her character sucks you in, very strong and passionate words. But then when you look at the whole scope of things, then you start to think like, I don't know, which is important because you have to think in her performance working across from Makai Curtis, it was playing Kanan, that easily convinces him emotionally wise to work with her on screen, so that when you see these scenes of her saying, I'm a good mother and I did everything for you and da-da-da and this is for us, when as any adult, anybody that says I did everything for you, you know it's some lie in there somewhere. So it's just what it is. But in this case, you're thinking like, yeah, Kanan actually believes that everything she's doing is for the better good of him, and he's gonna rock with that, you know? No pun intended.
Mother and sons, like, hey, have you? I don't think I've ever just like not believe anything my mother's ever said. I don't think that's humanly possible. Yeah. Like, that's the person you're always going to believe, and that's why it works so well when they're on screen together, because he's just as stuck as the audience is. But it doesn't. It's not just him. All of them are.
Yeah.
Her brothers.
Oh,
Deb.
Louis,
Jukebox.
Yeah.
Everybody is stuck. Whenever Rock says something, like, you almost take her word for gold.
Yeah.
Because you can't see the other side. And that's what makes a great character. Because that character clearly has that other side. But if we ever pay attention to it, it's legit the same thing we thought about Kanan in the first Power series. Everything he said was taken for gold. Like, Kanan's not going to lie about anything. Even when he was making moves, and we knew he was making moves, we still believed everything he said. The way Tommy believed everything Kanan was saying is almost equivalent to the way that little Kanan is with his mom.
Makes me wonder if Patina studied Kanan in the original Power series to really draw influence as to the delivery of some of her scenes, because I think that's right.
A hell of a comparison there.
Yeah, the continuity between the character, and when you think about the growth of where Kanan actually achieves, as much as we put a much evaluation on Jukebox, when you think about where Kanan actually gets, you start to think, well, what makes him become that person? And a lot of times you focus on the killing aspect of him, but what made him that ultimate influence in anything he did? I tell you what, and I'm not saying it just because we're on this topic now, but when we was watching the episode, I literally said to myself, this is exactly why Tariq believed everything that Kanan was telling him. The way how Kanan was sucking up everything that Rock was telling him. I was like, yeah, this is it. The lessons that he's learning, that he's narrating in this episode, and then from the actual things that the characters is learning from the influence around him, it just makes sense. So I don't know, man. Like, again, I know a lot of people going to look at this episode and say it didn't have a lot of action, but I think this episode, again, directed by Mario, was strongly done, like, on every aspect.
It was an episode for one. It was an episode meant to bring you back to the character, the reintroduction, and then it was to bring you the reintroduction to the business and open new storylines for season 2. So yeah, I mean, how many first episodes of a season 2 bring a lot of action? That's not normally the goal. The goal is to set up the season. Don't tell me. I'm talking to the audience here, just in case y'all are confused here. The purpose for a first episode in any season past the first season is to set up what you're going to get moving forward in the season. Hell, We already seen it in the Power universe. We don't even have to go back to the original Power. Ghost season 2, episode 1 was little to no action in it. It was meant to set up all the storylines so you understood where the characters are at this point. Here, we get full setups down to which I am still the most amazed by. And that is Rock showing the world how to properly run a crack house. It is amazing she is doing in that project building, man. That Jesus Christ.
But besides besides how she has it ran, key word here is she. Has New York on lock right now. I'm sorry, let me be clear, because it's got to be other players in the game. She has South Jamaica Queens on lock right now, because she talked about expanding in different blocks and having to get people to buy in. But as of right now, she has the towers on lock. She's talking about getting taller towers so they can look over everything else. I mean, come on now.
She's talking about keeping the residents happy. When they was like, man, the people complaining, it smell like piss in the hallway, this and that. What'd you say? We're gonna mop the floors twice a day now.
Yeah.
Because in other words, we're going to give them pride in the building that they are allowing me to move drugs out of. Damn. Let's up what we give them. Make sure all the groceries are taken care of. Oh, people need medicine. Make sure that's taken. Make sure we got a runner to make sure they get whatever they need. In other words, she's like, I'm taking care of everybody in this complex so my business runs well.
Yeah.
You know, that type of mentality and mindset does not exist normally. I hate to tell y'all, for anybody who's ever seen a drug den ran out of an apartment complex, that is not normally the mindset you have. The normal mindset you have is we're going to run it by force. We're going to force you to agree with us. We're going to force you to do this. Instead, she's running it with care. Like, nah, I just need you to be happy. Because if you're happy, you'd never tell the cops anything.
I almost want to say it's a woman's delicacy. That's the touch here.
Yes.
And that's an important thing.
It's a different of mindset.
Yeah. I mean,
nurturing mindset.
It's not directly comparable because the infrastructure is different, but I think you could kind of look over at Snowfall and you could say, well, Franklin also had a tactic of wanting to better the neighborhood, better the surroundings, but Franklin was a more of a buy into me or else type of thing. Yeah. And this is a more of a buy into me, and sure, where there may be reserves or hesitations, she got people to want to buy in a way of, well, see, here's the other thing too. You know, Marvin's the hothead of the crew. And if Marvin gets involved, then Marvin starts to show signs of Franklin in terms of, listen, do what I say or else. But, Rock was more or less like, take care of everything. You know, family's good. It went from 2 apartments stacked on top of each other to taking over the whole floor. And even with all these sorts of different things, even with like the lack of buying in from her brother, she still leaves room for them to say, like, listen, you're messing up, but like you can still make this right, even though she's calling a spade. Like, hey, you're fucking up. That's what it is. None of your excuses, but you still have chance and opportunity to turn this back around if you want. And I think it's interesting. I just think the only issue here is that, much like you say before, is that like anytime you think you're doing better for your neighborhood, when you have drugs involved,
you're destroying the neighborhood because you're selling drugs in the neighborhood. But I don't even think she cares about the neighborhood. That's the key part here. It's not a fake, like, let's build a community center in a neighborhood as I have crackheads running everywhere because I'm going to destroy this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Her thinking is, if I take care of you, you'll take care of me. Yeah. So just imagine in the 90s, you living in a project and you don't have to pay for groceries anymore. You don't have to pay certain bills anymore. You may not even be paying rent anymore. Your only job is, if the police say something, say, it's not happening here. It's a win-win for everybody involved. And then, hey, your apartment smell like piss? I got you. We'll have people cleaning up and down this, so that won't be an issue anymore. It's you take care of me and I'll take care of you, instead of let me sell drugs in the community and build a community center that the crackheads will then destroy. Like, it makes no sense to do it that way. Here it's a business. She's running the towers like a business. Instead of using her guilt to attempt to do something good.
Yeah.
Rock is not feeling guilty about any damn thing she's doing. She's just like, I need my business to run a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And as I said, she says she's the only game in town. She has things on lock. Now, really quick question: like when the other residents in the elevator decided to back up and allow her to go in, and Kanan asked, "What was that about?" Or however he quoted it, whatever exactly.
He asked them why nobody else got on elevator. She said, "You need to ask them that question."
Yeah, what's that whole interaction about?
You know who the kingpin is. Again, she putting food on your table. She's probably paying your rent.
Yeah.
When she come in there, nah, we got next. Don't worry about it. You good? Yeah. You good, Miss Mamas? Take
Listen, just like the landlord or whoever they killed last season. It's the same type of conversation of like, and again, he wouldn't have been killed if it wasn't for Marvin, but like again, like it's the same conversation of maybe you wanted to say something, maybe there's something you didn't want to agree with. That's fine. I'll up the price. You're gonna buy in, and that's what it's gonna be. End of story. And I think this is one of those type of things where the residents may be like, oh no, I don't want to be involved with this, and say, listen, we'll take care of those groceries. I don't know that we'll take care of the rent. Just look the other way. Probably so much to the point when you see me, also look the other way.
Just know. When I step in here, act like I'm not here. Wait for your go. Don't you make me get off on your floor. You know where I'm going to.
Anyway, I'm gonna go through a couple of other things real quick. Uncle Marvin, who is at court, lawyers trying to get something settled for him. They say they don't have a case with him and his old girl nowhere to be found, so she can't testify. But it's okay because with all things said, he has an option to do community service, or he can go to anger management. He decides to Glock his glizzy and go ahead and take that anger management, which for right now, we already know that's kind of leaning towards him and the chick who is definitely going to hold him accountable until he starts to want to get a hold of her, and however that's going to turn into things and whatnot. But yeah, my man got anger management for a couple of hours. A couple of hours to fulfill in order to completely settle everything that had happened with him and upon being arrested and whatnot. Now, Unique. Where's Unique at, folks? Well, he's locked up, as we know, and he's locked up because he is accused of killing a cop.
Which I'm so confused about this whole storyline with Unique.
So his CEO says, hey, man, I heard the news. I'm not happy about it. I heard you're going to be getting out pretty soon. Interesting. I started to think, well, why? Oh, because they don't have anything on him? Okay, cool. But he still killed the cop. I can't imagine somebody who is accused of killing a cop being told that
he got
shot a cop.
Because he's accused. Was not dead.
Yeah. He's accused of shooting a cop. But I can't imagine whether you shot him, whether you shot at him, attempted murder this may be, and how many counts that may be. It's maybe with the first, could be second and third. Who knows what it could be? The implications of you shooting a cop ain't letting you get back on these streets in 3 months. Ain't no judge in no world going to allow this to happen. And I'll play the game. But the real question is for you all and for you, Lou. Do you think this was the right call to quickly remove Unique out of jail? Because this is typical power. You run a storyline with somebody in jail for a couple of months, and then the show starts to feel like another show. Or do you keep the continuity of what happens when somebody shoots somebody and ends up in jail and just run it like another typical season of Power where one of your main characters happens to be isolated in jail, does time, meets somebody in jail, runs an operation in jail, eventually gets out at some point, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we've seen this. What season have we not seen somebody in jail? From the Ghost, from the Tommy to the Dre to Mecca, like not the Mecca, Lorenzo. Like every season somebody's in jail. And so when I saw it, I was like, here we go again. But the fact that he got out, I was like, oh, So anyway, that's my kind of piece on it. But for you all, let us know in the comments. Would you have rather Unique have done the extended time in jail and we actually got to see that play out in the show? Or are you quickly happy that they decided to go a detour on this and let him out? And we got one scene of him, 2 scenes of him in jail, and so on. But yeah, but for you, how do you think they should have played this?
I don't know, because we need to find out how he got out of jail.
Oh, do we?
I need to know that first.
Okay, so you want to know.
And only reason I want to know is because does it have something to do with the guy he protected in jail? Because remember, when a guy in jail, and Unique did not mean to protect him. He did it because dude bumped into him. Yeah. But before they were going to violate him orally, he was saying, do you know who I am? Do you know who my family is? So that's a guy with some form of influence and power on the outside.
I knew he's going to use those 2 words.
Yeah. Is that the reason why Unique got released early? They're still technically investigating Detective Howard's shooting, which is odd considering they have his coat, Unique's coat with Howard's blood on it and everything of that nature. Why the hell would you still be investigating this shooting then? Like it's pieces there that don't match up. So at that point, you would almost have to let Unique out. And again, Rock being Rock. That's why she made the move she did with his team. Because she said, oh, when he gets out, he needs to not have anybody.
Yeah, crazy enough that like at one part of me was just like, I cannot believe that this man, a head of an organization, got out of jail and not one of his boys was there, but goddamn, not even his girl.
Nobody there was picked to pick him up, Joe.
That right there has to send him in the rage. I think that's going to be. I think there's going to be something to make of that going forward. But yeah, it's interesting that was quickly a tactic by Rock to remove him of his soldiers. And as we've seen, that has already in play, because there's no way that somebody of his stature gets out of jail and no one's there with a new pair of clothes, and so on. So,
damn, even Teak got picked up. Shit, like they just left Unique out there like, nah, son. But again, that was Rock's plan. Yeah. Her plan was to take away his team, completely. And if I take them away from you, you're no longer a threat. If I take your team away, technically he becomes like Lamar in BMF once I take his team away. But Unique is not built to be that crazy lone gunman type.
Yeah, but will he is the question. What rate could they do this? Does this protect? Oh yeah, he's definitely smart. He's calculated. So yeah. Rage, he has inner rage, just without a question. He also kind of counters Marvin to an extent, but he's much more rounded in terms of it's why Marvin's not running the business and Rock is, and this is why.
And that was Rock, or was that Lulu or Marvin who was there when he got out?
Oh, it's Marvin, because Marvin's good at that. Lulu's not invested in the family stuff no more. And he's slowly
invested in killing him though.
For sure. I mean, yeah, he almost killed me and so on. And maybe him being out is what brings him back closer to the family. But other than that, I guess he was thinking like, well, I'm gonna focus on my music business, which is a hobby for him because he's not making money. So it's not a business, as Rock corrected him on that. But maybe that's
corrected him on
quickly. and maybe that's what brings him back closer to the Thomas family here. But yeah, Marvin's good at what he does. Marvin was told to keep an eye out on things. He's been doing that since season 1. That's where he's at. He's the first to assess that he has been released. He was released and no one was there, because that would have been another thing. What if somebody that y'all thought was on your side ends up
would have showed up there,
like Scrap, who was quickly exposed in terms of like playing a plan. So it'd be interesting to see if somebody would have did that. And I think we can assess now that like these are sort of this is the battlefield laid. Unique has nobody. He got out of jail and no one was there, not even his girl. That's a huge sign of something to make a.
It's a huge sign of drug dealers. I mean, in all honesty, when you go to jail, Jay-Z made a song called "Falling." If y'all have never heard it, check it out. It's literally what happens when you are a drug dealer and you fall. Once you fall from grace, everybody leaves you. including the girl. The girl that you thought was going to stay down with you, she's moving on to the next one. Like, she's not stupid. She possibly thought Unique was going away for a minute. She needed to attach herself to the next dude. This is not a situation where she's holding you down in prison. No. She only holds you down when you still the man in prison. If you ain't the man in prison and everybody ain't checking for you no more, your girl not checking for you no more.
Good point. A couple of things to quickly mention. Juke going to see her ex-girlfriend's grave, so that's obviously still bothering her. As I said, Uncle Marvin is now going to anger management. Unique out of jail 3 months after being accused of shooting, potentially murdering a cop.
Attempted murder.
Yeah. Attempted murder. Going back to Juke really quick, now Juke is trying to find a place of peace after her girlfriend overdosed, and after Kanan being removed, and even Rock may not actually be emotionally available for her as she usually is because Kanan's not there. And I know she loves some Juke, but as it's very evident, the only and everything that she only cares about is Kanan, which Symphony takes a casualty to that. And I think it's safe to say that Jukebox probably would too. But it's also, as she said, Juke is trying to find a place of peace because she has no outlet to do so. I'm going to focus on Juke extensively really quickly here. Now, with that, we saw Juke later on in the episode coming to the studio. Seems that Uncle Marvin has brought in a new singer, and she was excited until she wasn't. And she gave this look that I don't know if that is competition. I don't know if she feels like that devalues her placement. I don't know if this is like a bit of interest for this person. It's hard to say, but it was definitely a stare that has some form of emotion behind it that's not detailed just yet. And with that, you have that going on here. So like, let's just with those options, she has lost the studio here. 2 of those 3 reasons I gave are reasons that may remove her from the studio, may remove her from wanting to sing. Hey, you got somebody already. I don't have my girl, and through depression, she loses the one thing that brings her the most happiness here. The next thing, her dad, who has not seen her in 3 months and clearly can't land a conversation to save his life. And Kanan quickly exposes it and says,
that was an asshole thing to say.
I love how they shot that too. I love how they shot it too.
with the far out, close in face. Yeah. Oh man, that was beautiful.
Having a hard time connecting with Juke, huh?
Did he say hard time or did he say
okay.
You and Juke been connected?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was he was right for saying, man, fuck you, Kanan. Like that's but again, you said he struggled, but it's so true to Juke's character.
Yeah.
After what he did to her at the end of last season, and now that she stays with Rock, she wants no parts of him.
Yeah,
like she's moved past him.
It's it should be noted that like a lot of us are waiting to see when Juke becomes this monster that we see her eventually become in the original Power series. And I think a lot of us thinks it's because of the influence around her. I think in a more of a wild card aspect, I think it may be the route of depression where she does not know how to handle it and she chooses to go towards the path of rage. And I think, not to say that depression is a direct correlation to rage, but I think the unawareness of her mental health may send her down a path of no return. And I think that, still in the community today, a lot of Black people don't put emphasis on their mental health, and that sends them in all different types of swirling directions. And I think that let's call it what it is. Juke has nobody and or nothing at a point. And when you have these things kind of entering her life and then leaving, Kanan, her girlfriend, music, at what point is she finally going to find something that decides to want to completely invest in her? And her dad, who's like, trying to work on her 3 months ago, supporting her at her show, to not being there with her through her hardest times for 3 months. That's it sounds depressing coming out of my mouth, and that's just the story arc of this character that we're eventually looking to see become a complete monster, sinister in these streets, a cop at some point too. But yeah, you know, when do we get to that, you know, and how do we get to that? And I think we have to start looking at maybe not so much as the events around her as the influence, but the mental health inside of her that's not being addressed. So we'll see. Scrap, as I mentioned, he has a gambling addiction and got. I do not know where this goes beyond this, but the one thing to take is that he is, we're not going to say good at numbers, because that's what what's his name with the dreads from Force.
There you go. Tommy's nephew.
Yes, Tommy's nephew. Why is it slipping out of my head? It's been a while, but yeah, help us out in the comments.
I wanted to call him Dre. I wanted to call him AK-47. I don't know that boy's name.
Help us out in the comments, folks.
Jeez Louise, I forgot his name that fast.
That's the definition of good with numbers, but we see that he is actually good with betting, and with him being good at betting, D-Mac, by the way, with him being good at betting, as it's not only seen through scenes, but 50 narrated saying like this dude lives and dies by gambling. Just keep that in mind. Somewhere down the season, this is going to come back into play again. That he has his addiction, his battle, and that happens to be by all means gambling, which is a liability when you're dealing with a lot of money in an organization where Rock is trying to keep things bulletproof and tight, real tight. You know, especially the whole thing of like keeping your enemies closer, as she mentioned, and she expects everybody to be bought in. But when you have a liability such as gambling, well, that's problematic. Just to kind of go into the real world really quickly, anybody who has a job that is of some significance, when you get a background check, why do you think they want to check to see what your activities may be? Because you may be a liability to whatever that organization business may be, because you may be willing to do anything in order to win that bet or to have money to get back in that game. So we'll see where he plays a part, Scrap, going forward. Now, let me see what's going on here. I already mentioned Famous smoking, can't get another hit, hasn't been in the booth since. Just shaking my head, bro. Like, come on now. I've been lobbying for Famous to drop a new hit ever since last season. And not only do the streets need a body, but I need a new song. So I'm gonna need him to figure something out. So let's get that together. I want to open this up to you really quickly. With everybody having conflict in this episode, we see Lulu with the management in the studio, with everything involved. With Marvin with anger management, his ex-girl, not really his ex-girl, but whatever, missing, but also whatever. And with Juke, with Rock, and trying to solidify her position as a mom that Kanan can trust and that he can feel safe around. With Lulu and Rock, with Unique back on the come out block. Yeah, back on the block.
Howard and Rock at the end.
So many different Howard and Rock, which is the last thing we'll talk about on this episode today. Which of these conflicts becomes the most intriguing to you?
Lulu and Rock. Because Lulu, she needs him in the fold. And if he's not in that fold, it can create huge issues. Like, that will be the most interesting conflict. Yeah. I mean, granted, the last one with Rock and Howard is very interesting, but I think in a practical standpoint, for the way the business is ran, it's Lulu and Rock. That has to be squared away, because she needs to know either she can 100% trust him or she needs to move on from him. Yeah. But Lulu's stuck in a position where he needs their business to run his business. Because again, his business is making no money. So when it comes to a situation where he has to run this business, but he doesn't have his heart into running this business, that can lead to slip-ups that Rock can't have. Yeah. And how would Rock respond if Lulu starts making mistakes?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. He's late. And that's a personal issue, but not a liability as of yet. And is, as you can say, he is definitely very important to the operations. But when he decides to start making these mistakes and so on, it's going to be to see where things could explode, and where does that do for the siblings? But yeah, folks, jump in the comments, let us know who your favorite or who you're most invested into in terms of conflict parents of this episode and beyond in this season. Now let's see what else we got here. I got this in the notes, and I feel like we done addressed this earlier. But yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, we did, because I appreciate your response to it. But how and why the hell would Unique get into a fight knowing you're about to get out soon? Nobody in their right mind being told that I heard you about to get out is going to say, yeah, can't wait to go out there and lay some hand. I've never even been to jail, but I know one thing: I ain't sitting here about to plead my case as to who started it, because everybody loses.
I'm not going to say the details that I know, but I know someone who was about to get out of jail 6 times and got into this same exact situation every time. Because when you're in there, what you can't do, because here's the thing, when you know you're about to get out, everyone knows you're about to get out. It becomes time to test everything about you. And you then have a decision to make. Do you go out a punk, or do you say, nah, that ain't gonna work? I can't let you punk me that way. So you end up getting into a fight.
Interesting.
Over and over again.
Interesting. The something to prove aspect comes into play.
Hey, man, manhood. Once your manhood is challenged, what is your response to it?
Yeah. So with Unique eventually getting ready to come out, who does come out in this episode, Rock said that, listen, there's no war with Unique. There's no war no more, especially when we have all his folks. That's that. And then there's still Morel, who they got to kind of get him to buy into as well, which is Lulu's job, I believe. And Lulu is definitely trying to pass up on business, but that's something I guess we'll see come next episode. But as you said, while she does have an operation and she does have the towers on lock, there's still other little blocks that she needs to address. Unique is the easiest because he's gone, so it's easier to give his guys some work and to get them to come over, which eventually we see that, well, they're nowhere to be found because they didn't get him when he got out of jail.
Hey, feed the wolves, because if I feed your wolves, they become mine.
That's
very simple.
That is it. Now, Crown Camacho gets the first sex scene of this season, and the way they shot this, I was like, it's only 1 or 2 people here. It's either the artist that he just signed, or it's who I would have bet on any given day, Jessica, because Jessica does anything to try to get famous.
Fuck anybody for famous.
Yeah, that's it. It's crazy. After her brother just completely disrespected her, and she decides to completely prove him right. But on the other note, and while listening to Teddy Pendergrass, by the way, they're figuring that, like, they're gonna make this happen. Crown's gonna hit his connections, and she's just gonna ride Crown literally to the top. And I guess they feel like this is going to eventually cut Lulu out, but Lulu has a new artist. He's working behind the scenes, and actually, I give 0 fucks about this part of the storyline. Period. Like,
Lulu, the money man, and all she doing is proving to be a hoe. Yeah, like, let's be real here. That's it.
Yeah.
Your brother said he thought you having sex with Lulu would lead to him getting a record deal and more opportunities. You said don't talk to your sister like that, and then you go right back around and fuck someone else to try to give him the opportunities.
Wow,
boy. Hey, man, some people in the music business need to understand when what you got ain't like producing gold and platinum records. Maybe it's not for you just to be giving that joint up to people. Streets need a body. Who would have ever thought it would be Jessica?
Let's get to the last scene of this episode. We have Rock completely being apologetic, even bringing Kanan some milk to his bed since he'd been in the crib, and trying to regain his trust, completely, as I said, completely being apologetic. and saying that everything that she's doing is for him, it's for us, and she's trying to keep him safe and happy. But I guess the question really is that, did she really protect him? And is she protecting him by bringing him back? Whether you choose to answer this now, or whether this is a thing that we should evaluate down the line. I mean, yes, we know where Kanan eventually ends up and grows up and whatnot. But like, again, whenever she's challenged about her tactics, about her methods, she's completely just like, she's unavailable. And Symphony, who tried to give her a suggestion, and she quickly clapped back and said,
"Yep.
You didn't learn your lesson, did you? I told you, you don't know my son. This is my son. I know him better than you do." And although he did the work, he did what he was supposed to do, which I think we all couldn't agree was a positive thing, and even that he gained a bond with Kanan, which she clearly is fond on. Like, I mean, she definitely was looking over at that like, oh man, maybe I need to maybe we need to be a little bit more nice. She was quickly reevaluating things when she's seeing how Kanan was interacting with him. But it still stands that, like, she isn't listening or hearing it from anybody else. And that's what she says. Like, my job is to protect you, you not protect me. I did put you in harm's way, but I'm going to protect you, and so on and so on. So, like, that's still to be questioned, but we will see. But while all this is happening, I swear to God, I was like, am I hearing a phone ringing? And I was like, if they don't address this has got to be an editing error that I have never, ever heard in anything I've ever watched. But in fact, the phone was ringing.
They played it perfectly to me.
Oh, for sure. And then Lulu, and then we see Marvin outside of the jail watching. Unique comes out. Now, one part of you says, oh, that was Marvin calling her, letting her know that Unique is out. That
Unique was out. But then the other part comes up that it was Howard calling her.
It was Howard calling.
I need you to meet me outside. I'm about to say, how do you call it? No cell phones, payphones. I keep on forgetting payphones existed back then.
They had cell phones. They got cell phones. He may not have one, but they do.
I'm about to say he ain't got no cell phone. Got no police salary. Not back in the 90s. You only had a cell phone if you was a drug dealer. You had the Zach Morris jump. The big ass cell phone, or you had the Eddie Bauer edition of the Ford Explorer,
or Mercedes. Yeah.
Which Howard has none of those things.
Not at all.
He called from a payphone.
Yep. But Rock and Howard meeting, and that brings us to our last topic of today's recap. What do you make of this? You brought up something bright and early in the beginning of this, but now I'll give you the floor again. What do you make of this meeting, and why is it so important?
Well, it's still important because Howard knows who shot him. And I'm pretty sure he knows who sent Kanan to shoot him. And here is just him inserting himself back into her life like he tried to before. And maybe this is where he gives her another ultimatum. Like, either I get to know my kid or I tell him everything. You can't threaten to kill me. You tried that already. It didn't work for you. Or maybe this is him officially backing off and understanding it may not be in Kanan's best interest for that to be his son. In him or Kanan's best interest for Kanan to be his son.
Right. And, when you have Detective Burke obviously looking into things and
looking into everything humanly possible,
obviously is a complete liability to everything, especially his son.
Do you think, oh shit, or do you think he's going to tell her something and tell him that I saw your guy in the police station? Because remember how he looked at him when he saw him in there.
Yeah. It is going to be an interesting conversation because there's a lot of things that could be said here. Obviously, that he picks up his intel on the profile on Kanan early in the episode. And this is not to jog his memory because I do agree that he has always remembered and that he went right into protection mode to save his son because he knows how this works. He's one of the most respected detectives of the New York Police Department, and that's why they call him the prodigal son. And he knew exactly how this was all going to play out, and so on. He takes who is actually the one to do it and remove him from it. Be interested to see it'd be interesting to see who he does then decide he wants to use that I think I know how it happened thing on.
Who do you blame then?
Yeah.
Does he fall in line with her and blame Unique for shooting him?
Could be.
Maybe that works for Rock's plan. But then what does he get out the deal?
Yeah, I will say that, with her getting the call, she's completely, I think they're at the spot that he got shot at, if I'm not mistaken. But
it damn sure look like it. But no. It looked like it's right outside her apartment because she just out there smoking a cigarette, chilling.
Okay. So yeah, at the end of the day, like this conversation, I don't think it's going to be hostile. I think it will be a matter of accommodation and probably even consideration for somebody to get what they want. He wants his son. She's probably going to want protection. She's probably going to say, "Hey,
Kanan."
She's definitely not giving up
Kanan for sure. Yeah,
but
she
that's
don't want
what he wants.
him to be at all part of Kanan's life.
So I don't know. We're going to have to see. But overall, this episode, like I said, I thought it was really good performances. I thought, as you said, a good reintroduction of our characters. And it's given us a lot of different paths in terms of where the season can go forward. There's going to be war on the street. There's going to be Detective Howard protecting his son. Detective Burke, who's that traditional power cop, who's just going to keep digging until she gets what she wants. The conflict amongst the siblings. Kanan right now is the one we don't have anything on, which is very intriguing because as your main character, where does his troubles come?
Yeah, and that's important.
And maybe it's because that's actually Rock's liability. So maybe everybody guns after him. Because if you're gonna bring that empire down, you got to start with the crack in the wall. Happens to be that guy. But yeah, it is episode 1 of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. Episode The More Things Change. Folks, as always, you can catch us at the conclusion of each episode after it premieres at midnight. So catch us 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
1 a.m.
Excuse me. Yes,
1. You tune in at 1 p.m. You can watch it again at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Watch it first at 1 a.m. though. Fall asleep, wake back up again to watch it again to make sure you got everything properly.
Yeah, 1 a.m. Like, subscribe. Feel free to donate if you haven't, and we truly appreciate it. Help us keep the lights on. But more importantly, be a part of the conversation by jumping in the comments and letting us know your thoughts about our episode, about the episode, our conversation. And you know what it is. We're back each and every week. Tune in, and until then, y'all. Thank y'all. Y'all be safe, and we'll see y'all then.